Well, our next guest recently tweeted about the effects of inflation, saying this: Biden's recession will keep making Americans suffer with record high food, gasoline, and energy costs. So much for the Inflation Reduction Act the Democrats promised would save the economy. Joining us now, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, great to have you with us. Explain a little bit more about your tweet. I mean, Americans know very clearly that inflation is just through the roof, and we know that every day we put gas in our cars and we go to the grocery store.
That is right. And their so-called Inflation Reduction Act put more money into the economy, more government spending. And when you keep adding fuel to the fire, of course, you're going to see inflation continue to rise. At the same time, this administration is piling the regulations onto our manufacturers and the private sector, our energy economy. They're continuing to constrain our energy producers, making it harder and harder for them. They're emptying out the Strategic Petroleum Reserve with no plan to refill it. And of course, the price of a gallon of gas is going to go up at the pump. Supply chain issues are there every single day, whether you're talking to truckers or to the railroad industry, and whether you're talking to people that are trying to import goods. Getting those goods into the marketplace is incredibly difficult. Our food processors, our manufacturers talk about supply chain issues around the inputs that are coming to them. Our farmers talk about the price of fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides that have increased about 300% since Joe Biden took office. They can hardly afford to get crops in the ground.
Yeah.
So this all has an impact.
Yeah, indeed. I wanted to switch gears a little bit. You and your colleagues have called on President Biden to prevent the Chinese telecommunications company Huawei from building a semiconductor plant. The press release about this reads, the opening of this plant would put the United States at a disadvantage in countering Huawei, advance Communist China military civil fusion campaign, put American semiconductor companies at a disadvantage, and pose a national security concern. Continue your thoughts on that, Senator.
Yes, Huawei is owned in part by the Chinese Communist Party. When you look at these China-based and China-owned companies, Bob, there is no line between that separates their commercial and their military sectors. We know that Huawei tries to embed spyware and malware into their hardware. The reason they do this is so that they can collect your data, basically spying on you or spying on the entity. This is why we have disallowed Huawei equipment into our U.S. military governmental systems. And even over our private networks, there's a process called rip and replace, so that Huawei technology can be removed from the United States and replaced with technology that does not have the embedded spyware and malware.
Senator, if the GOP wins the Senate majority back come November, what are some of the first things that you believe need to happen?
Oh, when we win, item number one is to get the out-of-control spending under control. We need to freeze federal spending, hiring, and federal salaries. And then we need to pass my legislation that would require a supermajority to pass any spending bill. Also, making certain that during times of high inflation is when we would do this. CBO pegs high inflation at 4%. So if during high inflation you have to have a supermajority to pass a spending bill out of Congress, that means you're going to really just cover the bare necessities that you need to keep government functioning.
All right, Senator Marsha Blackburn, always great to have you with us. Thank you.
Good to be with you.